Well, it's Friday morning. I'm here at the Penwell Ridge Retreat Centre, and I had a better night's sleep the first night tonight. This time, last time I barely slept, or I didn't barely eat either. But this time I'm eating, and I'm trying not to eat so much. But anyway, it's better, and didn't have any dreams that I can remember. But it's a beautiful morning. I can hear the birds chirping, and today I'm going to do a meditation in the well pretty soon, within the next hour or so. And I'll bring my tarot cards with me too, just the Rider Waite, just to see how I go in there. But I also plan to walk the labyrinth this time, figuring out my purpose, thinking about everything that I've done in my life, the skills I have, and the interests. And then on the way out, I'm going to open up and see what comes to me, and I'll record my impressions and share them with you here. I made some medicine last night, and I'll share that as well. I'm going to share a lot of things, but it's interesting how the first time I came, I was an absolute mess, like really a broken vessel. Even though I had a wonderful time here and unraveled a lot of stuff and then had to go home and continue doing the work. I did the work and it's been months, about 6 months, and it's really interesting. I mean, it's such a different headspace right now, having risen above the crap that kept me low for so many years. When you just keep putting one foot ahead of the other just to make ends meet, just to get along, to get by, ignoring what's bubbling under the surface, after a while it turns into poison. And this is such an interesting thing about healing. I remember as a young kid understanding the concept of when you keep things bottled up, it turns into poison. And throughout our lives, we go through these cycles where you learn things, you pick things up, you understand things, but you don't apply them. And especially if you've been through childhood trauma or any kind of trauma, you block off certain things. Therefore, I believe that healing can't happen because the focus is elsewhere. And for me, being so depressive my whole life, which was like a mask almost, although it was a response to the treatment that we had as kids. We weren't ever SA'd. I know you're not allowed to say the words these days. People are so easily triggered, which is interesting because I'm triggered by people who are triggered. But then again, I understand being triggered. Anyway, that's a side note. But going through lives, it's almost like having a shroud over ourselves, and we're cut off from whatever you want to call it, source. Sometimes we deliberately cut ourselves off from people because we've learned that that's how we can navigate life and at least feel a little bit secure and in control. But in essence, while we're operating in that at that level, we're not really in control. It's in control of us. And that's a lesson I've learned. When I first came here, it was like I called it a spiritual vomitorium because everything just came out of me. All the stuff that I thought I'd dealt with, that I'd minimized and pretended was not an issue, just in order to get along with the people who would, not just my mother, but over the years, people who try to use you or try to control you and all that stuff. But I ended up being such an angry ball of fire that I finally crashed when I first came here in January this year, 2025, and it all came out. And then the first couple of months, I was dealing with a lot of rage. I understood that the job I have where people are coming at you all the time, and a lot of people are coming to us, obviously they need help with finding work or what have you. But a lot of people do trauma dumping too freely, too freely these days. And in my job, we're like sitting ducks. Now, the majority of the people we serve, you know, going through it, and that's not a problem. We understand that, but as long as they can see reason and understand that, well, I'm not, this isn't the perpetrator, this isn't the person who did this to me or what have you. But a lot of people can't do that when they know they've got someone open who's willing to listen and try to help. Some people, not all of them, but some people will just offload onto you and even get angry with you like you're the therapist. And even therapists don't deserve that kind of treatment. But I developed a very harsh reaction to those people. I was very judgmental, and that they were causing me my stress. But then, having gone through what I went through, I learned that we're all on our own journey. I mean, Mother Mary told me that when I was in the well here last time doing the meditation. They call it the well. It's a big circular building. Well, I keep saying big, it's not that big, but anyway. And she told me everybody's broken, and we all know that. A lot of people are carrying a lot of baggage, a lot of trauma that they've yet to deal with or are trying to deal with. And that was a hard push for me because I was still guarding and blocking these kinds of people, guarding myself and blocking other people. And when I sat at the statues with the mendicant women and read about them and learned that they were, no matter what, you know, taking a vow of poverty in order to help others, that really upset me because I thought, no, I'm trying to get away from that. What am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be doing? I'm still looking for another job. I've done, you could call it personal advising and career coaching for a couple of decades now, but I'm sick of it, and I want to focus on this channel. And also a revelation I had overnight was I am a writer. If I wanted to say what is my purpose, it is to write. I love writing, I love creating, and that goes with the channel here and the content I share. I'm going to get a bit more real with the channel too. I feel like even though I'm proud of the videos I've put out there to share information about paganism, I really want to dig into the side that I realized is my forte, which is dealing with darkness. And that some people might not like that. Well, some other people will. So I'll still continue churning out the content I do to share information. I love sharing information like that. But the delving into the psyche and learning how to heal so that you can move forward and have a happy life is something that I'm learning this year, and I'm happy to share. I did that on my other channel, Portal Stormer, but I'm feeling more and more that it's more holistic to be sharing this kind of content on Hedge Witch Herbarium because it's aligned with my journey back into spirit, connecting back with the universe, whatever you want to call it, God or whatever. I'd cut myself off for years and years as an atheist, and I still I prefer truth over bullshit. You know, no truth is higher. You know, what's that saying? No religion is higher than truth. And it is true. I mean, whatever is true. And there's what's true for you, what's true for me, but then there's actuality. And that's the level I'm at the top now. And I have an attitude now also, whatever works. And for me, opening back up to the magical side of life, to nature, and recognizing that we're all connected and that we're all in this together. It doesn't matter your sex, doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter all the other things. All of us humans are in this together, and having gotten myself to this level of understanding and accepting the good, the bad, and the ugly, not allowing bad things to happen, of course, but understanding, what they do. I used to keep myself awake at night worrying about so many different things going on in the world. I worried so much for other people. Um, but what I realized was doing that was almost like a deliberate detour so I didn't have to focus on myself. What are the bad things happening to you? You're hurting yourself doing this and that or thinking this and that. So, anyway, this journey has been really interesting, and it's only Friday morning. I'll be here until tomorrow, Saturday, until 1 p.m. There are people coming today. I prefer to be here on my own, but that's okay. They're just here for the day. There's a couple of people coming between 9 and 1, and then some other people coming between 10 and 6. And they're just here for the same reasons. They're using it as a retreat or as a quiet space to do work. And we're all very mindful not to get in each other's way. But I'm lucky I have access to the Dorothy Day cottage if I need some privacy. So anyway, I'm going to share a lot more as the day progresses, and tonight I'll be making medicine with Cernunnos, the horned god of the forest. Hey, it's Kelly again. This is day 2 of the retreat that I'm taking at the Penwell Ridge Retreat Centre, and this is just a little follow-up to what I just did in the well, which is a circular building. You'll see that video if you're interested. I did a meditation in there, and this time around it was a totally different vibe. I dropped into a meditation by focusing on a carafe that was on the table in the middle of the room, and the light coming through it was really lovely. I took some footage of it, so I'll share that here. But as I focused on it, it's like focusing on the flame of a candle. And when I was drifting into it, I sensed a shadow coming in, flying in, and sitting next to me on the right. It was really interesting because I wasn't afraid, and it sat next to me like a companion, like a guide, sitting there as I dropped into sort of a semi-trance, thinking about my purpose in life. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be? Because I'm having not so much an identity crisis, but trying to figure out what I actually want to do. And I want to be a writer. I want to be a successful writer, and I've put some books out there, and that's great. But as I'm sitting there just opening up, waiting for the message, I got the sense that something I've always known, it's always the case, isn't it? I have all the skills and knowledge and experience ready to share in terms of healing people going through darkness. And while that's been something I've been playing with since my first visit to the retreat centre here in January this year, it was solidified within that meditation. It was like I was being shown I have all the skills, whether it be writing, herbalism, paganism, and knowledge of psychology and mythology and so on, to help other people going through the darkness. Because like me, there's people out there who are just putting one foot ahead of the other, dealing with life, not even delving deep to see what it is inside that's driving them to either go from mistake to mistake, or negative self-talk, or delving into the wrong relationships. And I decided that on this channel I'm going to start a playlist. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but going through that meditation was really helpful, because I kind of knew that was what I wanted to do, but the way I'm going to do it, which was really interesting, because I thought about how I could formulate medicines to help with certain issues related to the darkness, whether it be trauma, whether it be survivors of abuse, and so on, as well as aligning with the dark goddesses to help provide this. And I thought I might do a training, but I thought, no, of course, first of all, I'll just share content on my channel. But I'd like to either write a book about my journey this year and how just in 6 months I've gone from being in the depths of despair to really coasting above all that dreck and looking down and seeing it for what it is, seeing the forest and the trees and understanding my place in it. It's hard to explain, and you'll see it when I start sharing the content. But when I finished with the meditation in the well, I went to do the labyrinth, and like I'd planned, on the way in I contemplated all my skills, abilities and talents and how they could be useful in helping others. And I do help others at my job anyway, but also inadvertently people here and there who ask me for advice or who might be going through it that I can see, because I believe I am an empath. I'm very highly sensitive. I have been since I was a child, along with all the other acronyms like ADHD and CPTSD and all that stuff. But when it comes to picking up on others' vibes, and I've shunned people who are in crisis, especially those who like to trauma dump, because it's just a lot to deal with. And it reminded me of my mother and how extra she was, especially when she was drunk. And when I was going through the labyrinth, when I came out of the labyrinth on the journey out, I was thinking about the deities, and Hecate, Ereshkigal and Lilith were the top of my list. There's other dark goddesses I like for different reasons, including Kali. But as I was coming out of the labyrinth, I was thinking Hel, the goddess Hel, the Norse goddess of the underworld, and how that acronym, Hecate, Ereshkigal and Lilith, spelled out Hel, her name. And all four of them signify, to me personally, different ways of dealing with darkness. For example, Hecate, when you're trying to make decisions, you need protection, you're at the crossroads. For those energies, I thought that would be good for certain types of trauma people might have gone through, or if they've come through the other side and just need that protection, because you're like a raw nerve once you've processed stuff. I was, for especially the first couple of months after I left here. In January, I was dealing with rage because I was building my boundaries and so on. But then Ereshkigal, about dealing with darkness itself, and dealing with the dark powers and knowing how to use them, for healing rather than hurting. And then Lilith, about survivors of abuse, women especially, how women who've gone through that can learn about how sexuality is still a good thing and feminine power and all that. So, and when I thought of Hel, she was poorly done by. She remained in hell. There's a whole mythology to her which I'll share, but with her, I felt an affinity with her, and always have with Scandinavian deities. I've been very drawn to Nordic countries as well as the Norse mythology. But her, I feel really related to her a lot with her trials and tribulations, being relegated to hell, much like Ereshkigal. But I thought with her, the darkness, dealing with the rage, the unhealthy thoughts, the feel or the compulsion for revenge and all that. So they're the different components I thought of. And I was really excited because it's something that I've kind of known. You know how you have a thread of something in your mind that you know, but you're not sure how to sew it all together? Well, today I feel like I've done that, and it's a really interesting experience to have discovered something that it was just out of eyesight. You could just turn your head and miss it. But today it was brought front and center. And it's just really weird to say that, because you would think if I had all this knowledge and ideas in my head, I just hadn't threaded them all together, is what I'm saying. So anyway, that was really exciting. And while I was sitting there, after I finished the labyrinth, because it's a hot, steamy day, overcast, it ended up storming, and I was lucky to get all that done before that started. But I'm sitting there and I was thinking about Kanunos, who I am consecrating the mushroom medicine I'm making later on, which I'll share the content with you. And as I was thinking of him, Lord of the Forest and the animals, fertility and all that jazz, all the trees around me started dropping the water that had, it had rained a little bit overnight. So I thought it was going to start raining, but out in the open, there was not a drop. And all the forest, or the woods around me, sounded like they were all, I wouldn't say crying, but dropping the water as the wind moved through the canopies. And it was just a magical experience. And as I'm sitting there hearing this, marveling at the fact I wasn't being rained on while I sat there in front of the labyrinth, and contemplating Kanunos and how I'm going to incorporate him into the medicine making tonight, all of a sudden all these leaves started blowing out of the trees like confetti almost. And one of the leaves landed on my left knee, which is interesting because that was a knee a couple of years ago when my mum died. All of a sudden that year, this knee gave me so much grief, so many doctor's visits and medications. And anyway, it was almost like it was saying, there's a leaf to heal your knee. It sounds like I'm stretching. But since January, I've been a lot more open to the magical way of thinking, which has really helped me open up and develop compassion and heal from the trauma that I went through as a child, and the continual trauma throughout my life with my mum, and also how I carry that forward, because you can't blame everything, even though we didn't have a good start at all. But it was just lovely, and a confirmation that yes, this was the right decision. When I finished there, I went for a walk to have a look at the Cascades, and that was really lovely. And then I followed the path, the trail up to the lake, saw some dragonflies, beautiful ones. I'll share the footage, as well as birds. And I saw deer this morning and everything. It was just a wonderful experience. And I came back and just thought I'd have a lie down, and conked out for about an hour and a half, had a good deep sleep. Woke up, it was storming, which was beautiful too. So I'd escaped the deluge, but it was lovely to look out the window, see everything glistening and green. It's interesting just practicing gratitude, and also opening up and watching the things that you normally take for granted, and receiving them as gifts, receiving them as messages, as symbolism for what you're thinking, what you're going through in life, was really lovely. So what I'm going to do now is go in and do a tarot reading, now that I've had this realization of what my path is going to be. And then, I'll record that, or at least the outcome, and share it. And then later on tonight, like I said, I will make the medicine, the mushroom medicine, and share that with you too, and Kanunos. Anyway,